There is an unspoken rule in the village of Agbede: never whistle at night. It wasn't a superstition or a warning people gave just to scare children. It was a fact as real as the soil beneath their feet or the air they breathe. But Sade, a newcomer to the village, had never believed in such things. Sade, a city girl by all standards, had moved to Agbede for work. Despite the remote location and the eerie quietness that settled in after dark, Sade found the village charming with its wide fields, friendly people, and traditional way of life. However, there was something off about the night. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a whoosh fell over the village. People hurried inside, doors were shut, and the windows bolted. By 7:30 p.m., the streets were empty, the usual hum of conversation replaced by an oppressive silence. The only sound that occasionally broke the stillness was the faint, haunting whistle that drifted through the village like a ghostly breeze. It always started softly, as though carried on the wind, just outside the village. Then, as the night deepened, it would get closer. The villagers spoke about it in hushed tones. The silent whistler, they called it. No one had ever seen him, but everyone had heard about him. One evening, Sade asked her neighbor, Mama Uwa, about the whistling. The old woman said, her face darkening with fear, "You must never whistle back, my dear, not after dark. If you hear it, pretend you didn't. Ignore it. The whistler comes for those who respond." "But what happens if you do?" Sade pressed, curious despite the obvious fear in the woman's eyes. Mama Uwa shook her head. No one survives to tell this story. Sade couldn't help but laugh, though she quickly stiffened it out of respect. "It is just a sound," she said. "Surely it can't be that serious." Mama Uwa grabbed her hand, her grip surprisingly strong for her age. "Listen to me, young woman. The whistler is not a man. It is something older, something from the time of our ancestors. It seeks those who do not respect the old ways. Don't let your curiosity get the better of you." Sade smiled politely, but inwardly she dismissed the tale. She had heard enough ghost stories growing up in Lagos to recognize superstition when she saw it. Besides, she had never been one to scare easily. That night, as Sade sat on her bed reading, she heard it. The soft, eerie whistle floating through the air. She paused, listened closely. It was faint, barely there, but unmistakable. It started far off, a low melody that seemed to dance on the wind. A chill ran down her spine. She tried to brush it off, but her curiosity growled at her. "It's just a whistle," she thought. But then, as if to challenge her disbelief, the whistle grew louder. It was closer now, right outside her window. Sade stood up and walked slowly to the window. She peeped outside, but the night was thick with darkness. The faint outlines of the houses barely visible under the weak moonlight. The whistle came again, long and soft, almost inviting. Sade's heart pounded in her chest. "It is just a sound," she whispered to herself. And then, against every instinct in her body, she pursed her lips and whistled back. For a moment, nothing happened. The air was still. The whistle had stopped. Sade let out a small laugh, relieved that nothing monstrous had happened. Maybe Mama Uwa's stories were just that, stories. But then, the silence was shattered. The whistle returned, louder this time, sharper. It wasn't soft or distant anymore. It was angry. It came from just outside her front door, as if whatever was making the sound had moved instantly to the front of her house. Her heart leaped into her throat. She backed away from the window, her eyes wide with fear. The whistle was continuous now, an urgent, furious sound, rising and falling in a pattern that made her stomach churn. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at her door. 3 hard, deliberate bangs. She froze, her breath caught in her chest. She didn't move. The knocking came again, louder this time, as if whoever was on the other side was trying to break down the door. The whistle continued. But now it was inside the house. She could hear it faint and menacing, just beyond the walls of her room. Her mind raced. How could that be possible? Panicking, she stumbled backward, grabbing her phone to call for help, but the line was dead. No service. The knocking stopped. Silence fell over the room like a heavy blanket. She held her breath, straining to hear. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever it was had left. Suddenly, there was a sound behind her. A low crack. She turned slowly, dread pulling in her stomach. The closet door, which she had left shut, was now slightly open. A cold hand gripped her heart as she stared at the dark sliver of space. The whistling was coming from inside the closet now, louder than ever. With trembling hands, Sade slowly backed away, her eyes locked on the door. And then she saw it, a shadow, shifting just behind the door. Something was in there, waiting, watching. And then, before she could move, the door burst open.